are doing well. Food, shelter, and a roof over your head. So one of those legs is the roof, the housing, and sector in Nigeria in which many persons will believe for you to own a house right now in 2025, you must really have worked well and everything must have supported you with your plans and everything. And not just about you having the money. There are professionals that you will have to consult for them to give you their advice on how to start it, where to even have that built, and the kind of plan that you should have. And, you know, many of these things have been coming up, but many things needs to be said. The issue of housing deficit in Nigeria, in fact, a document available on the website of the Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, that's a federal ministry's website, says that Nigeria needs 550,000 housing units annually to curb housing deficit. That's the federal government statistics there. 550,000 housing units annually to curb housing deficit in Nigeria. And not just about that. How about the issue of policy? How do we get there? Affordable housing in urban centers, in rural centers. The issue of safety is another thing. We have had issues of building collapse, incessant cases of building collapse, one too many in Lagos. Lagos appears to be the epicenter of these anomaly. Now, what do we do? Not just only Lagos, it's happening everywhere. And many persons have blamed industry professionals to say, is that they are cutting costs? Is it a systemic failure or a dearth of professionals? We'll look into that much later in the program. But right now, on this day, we have an industry giant with us, and she is the president, the 30th president of the Nigerian Institute of Architects, Architect Mobolaji Adiola Adeniye. She is in our studios this morning. Good morning, Madam President.
Good morning, and it's very good to be here with you in Ocean State.
Good.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And let's start. Before we talk about the challenges, when you talk about architect, you know, for a secondary school student watching, primary student, school student watching, adults, professionals, laymen, who is an architect? Let me start from there. What do they do?
Thank you very much. Very good question. And I'll tell you why it's a good question.
Right.
For many people, they don't even know the role of the architect. Like you said, what does an architect do? Many people are conversant with the engineer. You go to a site, you're called engineer. Really, the architect is the one that conceives the design of any built structure. We are the ones that start off the process. We have a concept, and then we design and bring to birth that design through overseeing just not the drawings of the plans, but also the supervision of the construction. So for a child, an adult, whoever wants to know, an architect is the person that does the design, supervision of buildings, most building structures. And it's like the art and science of building. So you see in the architect an artist, you see in the architect a scientist, you see in the architect a sociologist, because they must know your needs. They must be able to design to meet your needs.
Now, do you think, like, people really, you have said it, because when you go to site, what you see, everybody wearing a helmet or a boot, you then say an engineer. You have found out so far, your practice in the industry, do you think people really know the role, really appreciate the role of an architect?
We're getting better in this country, but I can assure you that a lot of people don't, or if they do, they have a misconception. There are some people that think, look, my father designed his house, so what do I need an architect for? So, and some people think, oh, architects are these people that should be working for the elites. They charge a lot of money. And some people think, oh, isn't it just to draw? So there's a lot of misconception around. An architect is really the first point of contact for any building project. And as a matter of fact, for any gathering, any space of human endeavor, you need an architect. We sit in your studios. I came into your studio this morning. Impressive building. I'm sure done by one of my members.
Thank you.
So you see, you need an architect. Your home, your school, your hospital, your laboratories, the government houses, everywhere, the courtrooms, even the prisons. You need an architect. So architects are not really as well known as the engineers, but I think more and more, they're getting more their recognition and their place. But everywhere in the world, the place of the architect is well recognized. The architect is the master builder. Is the one that was even before all the others come in.
Absolutely. We wouldn't expect you to say anything different. It's your profession. So we wouldn't expect you to say, I'm sure the engineers too will say they are the masters. But again, like you rightly said, the architects design. But just before I go into the question, my main question, before now, we used to have, those that draw building plans, architects, but they were very skilled to draw. So people believe that, well, why do we need an architect if we have someone who can draw a plan for us? Has that been a challenge to your profession?
Not anymore. It used to be, like I said, because there were no clear definition lines between the trades. The people you're referring to are called draftsmen. And these draftsmen for a long time held sway in this nation, in many states in this nation. Draftsmen usually work with architects. Draftsmen are the ones that used to, that is before the advent of computer designs, where you don't even need the draftsman even to be doing the drawings on the big drawing boards as we used to have in those days. So draftsmen are actually like the middle level manpower that translates many times the designs of the architect in graphic form on the drawing boards in drawings. The architect is the designer. The architect is more than somebody who draws. The architect thinks about the design. The architect must know not only the design concept, must know about the people he's designing for, must know about structures, must know about the electrical, must know about mechanical. Like I said in the beginning, it's like we know about everything. Because if we don't know about everything, we're not able to put that design properly in place. The designer, the architect is more than the draftsman. Okay. The draftsman just draws what has been given to him, to draw. So that's it basically. Although many draftsmen, because of their experiences working with architects, are able to do simple designs, and in some states, I believe there's a limit to what they can do, but they do not have the training of an architect. An architect spends up to 7 years in university learning not just design, learning how to put the building together.
It's not just 5 years?
No, total about 7 years. Okay,
you had internships?
Not internships. From the time you go to 100 level, then 300 level, 400 level, then you go for your master's. You are not a qualified architect until you finished your master's degree. And after that, you do a 2-year tutelage before you can even get registered. You have to pass your professional exam. So it's a long round.
Absolutely. Quite a long one there. Now, coming back to the topic of the day, housing deficit in Nigeria. There's this World Bank report that says Nigeria needs about 700,000 housing units annually for 20 years to solve our housing deficit. And again, in Nigeria, we have different statistics, different figures. Some have said the housing deficit is about 28 million units. Some have said close to 30 million units. Do you think we really have the data as to the state of, housing deficit in Nigeria at this moment?
Well, to be honest, I don't think we really have the data. It's been said, like you have rightly spoken, that between 20 to 28 million, housing deficit in Nigeria. And that's true. But you begin to wonder, how did they really get the data for this? But we do know that there's a lot of problem in housing in Nigeria. There's a housing deficit. And if like you introduced, this is the most basic need of man, a shelter over his roof. So over his head, rather. So, it's so important for everyone, and particularly in our climate. You're not a man until you have a roof over your head.
That's what they say.
Nobody will give you a wife. So, it's so important, housing. But you see, it's getting increasingly difficult for people to have homes over their heads. And this is because of, number one, the population growth. It is alarming. Number two, the cost of building materials. Number three, the economic situation in the country. Before, it wasn't too difficult to put up for yourself a 2-3 bedroom bungalow. But now you need to be more than average to be able to do that, or it will take you so long. So the housing deficit indeed is growing because of the population, rising cost of building materials, urbanization, and so many other factors.
Right. Let me take it back a bit. It was still about, one getting a roof over his head, a safe one, let me put it that way. Now, we talked about people who possibly because of their affiliation or their experience with architects, they now know these things. And people will say, oh, it's Baba Shade who helped somebody. So why do I need to go there? And you said something earlier that many persons will feel until you need a very big building or an industry building, that's when you should consult an elite. I'm just trying to put together cooperative money or a money that I put together for like 16 years. Why should I need an architect that will now build me, take half of the money and all of those things? That's the question on the lips of so many Nigerians to say, architect, excuse me, I'm not building a skyscraper. I just want a house, just a 3-bedroom. Why should somebody need an architect? Let me ask you that.
Well, the architect is a solution provider.
But they're expensive. That's the issue.
They are not expensive. And let me tell you, at the end of the day, it's penny wise and pound foolish.
How so?
Because we've been called into many instances where somebody imagined that between himself and his bricklayer, they can design their home. And of course, at the end of the day, it's a major disaster. Architects have been trained to be able to solve housing problems, building problems. For instance, you get to a site, you have a level problem. The site is sloping. How do you tackle it? We've been to some sites, the bricklayer just totally messes it up because he doesn't even know what to do with it. The architect from the beginning of the design looks at the contour of the site, knows the slope of the site, designs to meet the slope of the site. So he knows where to put the ramp, he knows where to put the steps. He doesn't do excessive filling that will cost you money eventually. He knows the right materials to use. Unfortunately, a sad incident happened yesterday. I was at a neighbor's place. The wife fell in the bathroom and died.
Oh.
Very sad story. What happened? What are the kind of materials do you use for your house? It is the architect that is trained to know. How do you design in such a way for
Not just
safety?
the design.
Pardon?
Not just the design.
No, we're the ones that specify the building materials to use. We know the kind of tiles you should use in the bathroom. It is not that, okay, I've finished doing the house. Madam, go to where they're selling tiles and go and look at the tiles. And the wife goes to Alaba, looks at the ones that look shiny and nice, it's pretty, and brings them in. No, the architect knows the performance of the building material, knows the specification that is right for use, and is able to put it together. But then, when you think that, look, is it not just a small building for myself?
Exactly.
Every space has to be safe.
Absolutely.
Every space has to be functional. Every space must have an aesthetic appeal, and it must reflect your personality. There's no one like your architect to be able to transform your dreams into that reality. So it's a professional engagement. It's not something, it's like, I'm sorry, you guys are looking sharp. You wanted to put up these suits, you want to go to your carpenter to do it, you go to a tailor, you go to somebody who's trained to do it. I think the level of sophistication of our people now is beginning to make them realize that a building is not just a box. A building has to be designed to meet their needs. A building is a statement. A building is much more than just shelter, like we have said at the beginning.
All right, architect. Like you said, architects, they also look into the materials used in building. Talking about housing deficits in Nigeria, we're really talking about the quantity now, but there's another angle to it which I want to bring in, the quality of the houses. According to a 2019 study by PwC, that's PricewaterhouseCoopers, they discovered that 75% out of the 42 million housing units in Nigeria fall below United Nations standards, criteria, and permanent occupation. So there's a as well when it comes to the quality of the houses. 75% of them falling below UN's criteria for human permanent occupation. How can that be addressed? Because now we have a two-legged problem now. We have that of quantity and also quality. So it's not just about quantity. Fine, we're having quantity challenge, housing deficit in Nigeria, but also we're having quality challenges. If 75% of the houses fall below UN criteria, how can that be addressed?
Thank you very much. And this is where there needs to be greater collaboration between the policymakers and the professional organizations and the regulators. We have SON, Standard Organization of Nigeria, that's supposed to be in charge of the building materials, the quality of building materials that come into this country. They're the gatekeepers. And we believe that with greater engagement with the professionals, we'll be able to achieve better and higher standards of building materials coming into this country. We are in discussion with them. And also with NIBRI, we are also talking with them because they are also looking into building materials coming into this country. And beyond that, what about our local building material? Can we not do more to ensure that our building materials, are developed to such an extent that meets the demands and the appetites of our market? Because, Nigerians do have a high taste, and they have a high taste not only for materials, for imported materials. And there needs to be a change in their mindset on this. And the Nigerian Institute of Architects in particular is very interested in changing this mindset. And what we've been doing is trying as much as possible through our architects to begin to do more Afrocentric designs, in focusing more on buildings that reflect our culture, our tradition, using also our own local materials, infusing it with modern materials so that you get modern buildings, but you do not lose your cultural identity through motifs, through some building materials, elements within the design that will show us up as we are, the Nigerian people. So we are working with them, we're working with SON, and we believe with greater collaboration between us, we'll be able to do it. But even beyond that, when you have a project and you have professionals on it, not just the architects, because it's a whole collaborative team. We have the architects, we have the engineers, we have the builders, we have the quantity surveyors. They work together in synergy on a site. They're able to ensure that the materials that are being used, okay, let's even say we have bad materials flood the market. If you have the right professionals on site, they ensure that tests are made on these materials to ensure that they are safe for use. So, well, that is what is happening, but I can assure you that the professional bodies and the regulators are working very hard to ensure that the building materials that are used on sites are safe. And that's the situation.
Now, the issue of policy on one side, the issue of having buildings that, are consistent, or the one that fits our, these Africa, these are Nigeria here. I remember talking with somebody who feels most of the time Nigeria will see a fine building. Yes, they have money, maybe somewhere in Canada or in US, and they want to translate the same thing here. And maybe the tropical nature of Nigeria might not even favor that. But what you need is, this is what I want. Show the picture to the architect. Let me, get something around here. Even when he's being advised, he doesn't want to hear. What he needs is that house that he has seen somewhere in Miami, and he wants it done here in Agumbelewo here. Now, if somebody will insist that that is what I want, can an architect say, no, sir, you can't do this. You might not like it. It's not safe for you. That's number one. And, different reports, PwC, the Federal Housing Report, the CBN, all of these agencies coming up with a report about how we can bridge the housing deficit in Nigeria. But sometimes, now about policy, when government and stakeholders roll out policies, you see most of the time, we even say 2-bedroom apartment, either it's renewable agenda or whatever, under any government, you see it most of the times, it doesn't get to the intended, population, the people we might call have-nots that may benefit. In fact, somebody somewhere will still find a way of honoring that particular thing and it won't get to that place. So how can the private investors come in? And that's the problem. When these realtors, these estate agencies, that estate agencies, by the time they come up, it's most of the time not affordable. How can we handle this?
Thank you. I think 2 questions, but many questions at the same time. You started off with the
kind of buildings that reflect.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Topography, our land.
Yes, this is so important. Like I said, Nigerians have a very high taste for imported things, not only in our food style, dress style, even in our building styles. And we do have issues where clients want something from out of here that may not even work here. But this is where I told you a professional, an architect comes in. The architect will translate your dreams to fit into your environment. Okay, I need to ask you, you like this building, what do you like about it? You tell me the kind of things you like about it. I can translate it to fit into your environment, into our climate in such a way that it will be beneficial to you. So when you are talking with somebody you know knows his onions, you will have that confidence. That person is able to convince you, look, sir, it's not going to work. You need lighting here.
Right.
You need cross ventilation here. You need to think of the sun coming in. You need shading devices here. You can't have the whole of this place glazed without considering these factors, So an architect is able to let the client know. You do have a few clients, a bit stubborn, but a client will either put his foot, an architect will either put his foot down because you don't also want to be involved in a situation where you have designed something that at the end of the day will not be functional and will not meet the client's needs. So engage a registered architect. He will make your dreams come true and make it relevant to your situation.
The issue of policy of where you have interventions that do not trickle down to the intended population.
This is a big problem. And I think the more government will need to collaborate, with the public PP partnerships is going to help us a lot more. And of course, the double-digit interest on housing loans must come down. If not, if the investor is putting so much money and there's so much he's paying back to the banks, it can't be affordable.
Absolutely.
So we need to look into all this, in a more realistic pattern. Government needs to know that housing to be affordable must be a social service, and more needs to be put into it. Mortgage facilities available for the people. Bank interest rates must crash one way or the other. And then local building materials must be, encouraged to be used in such a scale that it is affordable. Until this is done, there is no way, because we see it, a lot of the housing projects, very gigantic projects all over the place now. Can the ordinary person afford it?
Absolutely.
Cannot.
Now, talking about affordability, you just took the words out of my mouth. I was going to ask about, mortgage facilities. I saw a report from the MD of the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria saying less than 5% of Nigeria's population have the capacity, the financial capacity to afford a house. So Nigerians can't really afford a house. And we don't have sufficient mortgage financing for individuals who want to get their houses. So how do we solve this problem? What can Nigerians do differently? You are saying we should patronize, professionals, architects. It comes with a cost. So we have that problem. People, less than 5% of the population can afford it. And now there are no finances. And let's also look at the root causes of this housing deficit in Nigeria. Let's talk about urbanization. Okay, when people are moving to a particular, let me use Lagos, for instance, as an example. Lagos has, residents from all over Nigeria. Many people are moving in from different states, okay, which has driven up the population of Lagos over 20 million. And of course, when demand is higher than supply, the cost of housing has skyrocketed. So what can we do to mitigate that? Are your professionals, can we find your professionals in rural areas? I mean, doing good work there? Can the people afford it? So it's a two-way thing. First is the cost. What can we do to, mitigate that? How can we have more mortgage financing? If you go to other places in other countries, as soon as you are 18, you are entitled to mortgage facility. An 18-year-old can buy a house and pay for the next 25 years. Why can't we have that in Nigeria? Is your association, your organization doing anything to push for that? Say, okay, let's partner with some financial institutions to help Nigerians buy houses, to provide mortgage facilities. That way, it will be a win-win situation for your organization, for the financial institutions, and of course, for Nigerians.
Sounds very good. Really sounds very good what you have put up. But I think, it is beyond us. We are advocacy group, and we are talking to all these stakeholders. Luckily, the Minister for Housing is one of my members. He's an architect Musa Dangiwa. And he's doing a lot on this renewed hope housing projects, trying to get roll out affordable housing for people. I think the more we engage government and make them realize that beyond roads, beyond highways, because sometimes when you look at the billions that are put into roads, you know that if huge chunk of this money was put into housing, we would not have half of these problems. You're talking about mortgage and talking about accessibility to people. This is what should be. I talked about social housing. Government must be able to provide housing, make it affordable to people. We are there to help government to make it affordable.
Which of the government, if I may ask?
Local government level, state government level, federal government level. Everybody has their own niche. You talked about rural-urban migration.
Absolutely.
If our rural areas are comfortable, do you think everybody will rush to Lagos? If in Ikirun, everything you have in Lagos is there, would everybody rush to Lagos? No. There'll be so much more stress. It will be easier, healthier for me to stay even in that small place. But will I be able to earn enough money there, live comfortably, have a good school for my children, health facilities? So we must begin to focus on our rural areas too. And I think this is the important thing. And transportation. For instance, even in many urban cities or centers, countries all over the world, you see people, they live in the outskirts, even work in the cities. It's a matter of taking a train. How much does it cost them? But they live in a place where it is relatively cheaper. They can buy a house. And like you said, there's mortgage facilities. All that is still the government. So government needs to face the issue of housing more squarely, beyond all the paparazzi.
I'm talking about getting a push, the government getting a push.
We're pushing them.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
That as an organization, you can actually
We are actually doing that. In fact, we have been doing that. We have been on the front line of doing that. I'm consistently engaging with government at federal government level, state government level. And interestingly, at the beginning of this year, I charged all the chapters. I said, look, now that local government has money, because they're supposed to now have a lot of money in their control. So our members in the local government should go and engage the local government chairman. Many of them sometimes don't even have the ideas of what they need to do.
What they do, yeah.
So what are you doing with the money that is given to you? Shelter is one of the key things. So when the architects engage with the local government chairman, the governors, the ministers, all those responsible, then we'll be able to let them know that, look, these are the ways in which you can do a finance model that can ensure that everybody is able to afford a house. It doesn't have to be mansions, but we can afford to house everybody.
Yeah. Decent housing.
Decent housing.
All right. So
Very
much
important.
to really talk about. We still have the president here with us of the NIA, Nigerian Institute of Architects, I believe. I'm correct?
Nigerian Institute of Architects.
Architect. Maybe one of these days I might even decide to be a member. Maybe. Just maybe.
7 years in university, not bad.
Where there is a will, there is always a will. That's what
You'll
they
be
say.
welcome.
All right. We're going to quick break right now. When we return, we talk about the, elephant in the room, the case and cases, building collapses, the fact, the figures, what we need to do, even the issue of quackery in the profession as well, and how we can narrow it down even to the grassroots. Just like the Madam President said, now that the local have more money, how can we make the lives of people better so that even the have-nots have a dream of owning a home, no matter how small someday. Stay with us.